Let's think about our days so far. Almost everything we do, right, is powered by electricity. It's so essential we barely even notice it. But we often forget that this invisible force we rely on can be incredibly dangerous, even lethal. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into electrical safety in India, from some really shocking statistics to the practical steps you can take to keep yourself safe. So, to really understand why we need to take this so seriously, we first have to look at the scale of the problem. And honestly, the reality of electrical accidents is, well, it's pretty shocking.
I mean, take a look at this. It's probably a pretty familiar sight, isn't it? An overloaded power strip, maybe it feels a little warm when you touch it. It's so common that we just tend to ignore the danger. But this isn't just some dramatic picture, it's a real-world reminder of a risk that we seriously underestimate every single day.
So what does that risk actually look like in numbers? Look at this figure, 13,432. According to India's National Crime Records Bureau, that's how many people died from electrical accidents in just 1 year, 2019. To put that into perspective, that's over 36 people every single day. Every one of those numbers is a life cut short.
And what's really concerning here is that this isn't a static problem. As you can see from this chart, the number of fatalities is climbing, and it's climbing steadily. We're going from just under 10,000 in 2015 to over 13,000 just a few years later. So this isn't some isolated issue. It's a growing national crisis that really demands our attention.
Okay, so what is it that makes electricity so dangerous? It's often totally silent and completely invisible, right up until it's too late. Let's break down the three main hazards that you really need to be aware of.
First, we've got the one we all know about, electric shock. This is what happens when your body accidentally becomes part of an electrical circuit. And the effect? Well, it can range from just a surprising little tingle to a violent muscle contraction or even immediate cardiac arrest.
Next up is something even more terrifying, an arc flash. Think of this as a short circuit that happens through the air. It's a massive explosion of energy, with temperatures that can hit almost 20,000 degrees Celsius. To give you an idea, that's 4 times hotter than the surface of the sun. It can vaporize metal and cause fatal burns from several feet away.
And finally, of course, electrical fire. Things like faulty wiring, overloaded circuits, and damaged equipment, they're some of the biggest causes of fires in both our homes and at work. And these fires can destroy property and obviously put lives in danger.
So this brings up a really critical question. We hear about volts and watts all the time, but when it comes to the human body, the real danger is measured in current, in amps. So how much is too much? The answer might actually surprise you.
And here's the part that is just mind-boggling. Look at this chart. At just 1 milliamp, that's a tiny amount, you can feel a tingle. At just 10 milliamps, your muscles can seize up. It's called the cannot let go threshold. And at only 100 milliamps, that's less current than it takes to power a small light bulb, your heart can go into what's called ventricular fibrillation, which is often fatal. We're not talking about a huge surge of power here. We're talking about a shockingly small, deadly amount.
Okay, so given these dangers, just being careful on your own isn't enough. The good news is, India has a national framework of rules and standards that are designed to protect people. Let's take a quick look at how that system is set up.
So at the very top, you've got these key regulatory bodies. The Central Electricity Authority, or CEA, they set the big picture safety rules for the entire power grid. And then you have the Bureau of Indian Standards, the BIS, and they're responsible for creating this super detailed rulebook on how all electrical systems should be installed safely.
And that rulebook is the National Electrical Code of India. As the BIS itself puts it, this is the foundational document for safe electrical work nationwide. It covers everything you can think of, from picking the right kind of equipment to specific wiring techniques, all with one goal: preventing accidents.
Now, high-level regulations are absolutely essential. But at the end of the day, safety really comes down to what we do as individuals. So let's translate these rules into practical, life-saving steps that you can actually take.
Let's start with what is, without a doubt, the single most important rule of electrical safety. Always work on de-energized circuits. What that means is the safest way to work with electricity is to make sure there's no power flowing through it at all. And you never just assume it's off. You have to actively make it safe.
And the standard professional procedure for this is called Lockout/Tagout, or LOTO. First, you isolate the power right at the source. Second, you physically lock the switch in the off position and you add a warning tag. And third, and this is the most critical step of all, you use a proper voltage tester to verify that the circuit is truly dead.
No power, no risk. Simple as that. Of course, sometimes work has to be done near live circuits, and in those situations, personal protective equipment, or PPE, is not optional. It is your last and most important line of defense against getting hurt or even killed.
And we're not just talking about any old work gear here. This is specially designed equipment, arc-rated clothing that won't catch on fire in a flash, insulated gloves and tools that literally block the flow of electricity, and safety shoes and matting that stop your body from becoming a path to the ground. Every single piece serves a specific, life-saving purpose. And this slide really shows the stark difference. On the left, you've got a recipe for absolute disaster: exposed wires, bad connections. On the right, you see a professional using the right tools, the right procedures. The contrast couldn't be clearer. One is a dangerous gamble, the other is safety by design.
So let's just break this down into some really clear do's and don'ts. The do column is all about control and having respect for the power you're dealing with. The don't column, that represents all the common but deadly shortcuts. Overloading a circuit, using damaged gear, or, and this is a huge one, working with wet hands. Water dramatically lowers your body's resistance, and it can turn what might have been a minor shock into a fatal one.
Look, even with the best precautions in the world, accidents can still happen. And when they do, your ability to respond correctly in those first few seconds can be the difference between life and death. Visual aids like this poster are so valuable because in a moment of panic, you need clear, simple instructions. Knowing what to do, and just as importantly, what not to do when someone gets an electric shock, is a skill that absolutely everyone should have. So let's walk through this. The absolute first step is to protect yourself. Do not touch the victim if they're still in contact with the electricity. Your first job is to cut the power. If you can't, use something dry and non-conductive, like a wooden broom handle, to separate them from the circuit. Only then should you check if they're okay, call for an ambulance, and start first aid like CPR if you're trained.
Ultimately, electrical safety goes way beyond just rules and equipment. It's a mindset. It's having a deep respect for the power you're dealing with and a constant awareness of the risks. All the regulations and gear are there to help, but you know what? The final line of defense is you. So, I'll leave you with this question. Are you prepared?